Shedeur Sanders Browns' debut wasn't as impressive as it first seemed. The Cleveland Browns rookie put up great stats, but analysts have picked apart his performance. Leading up to Shedeur Sanders' NFL preseason debut, the narrative was that he was being set up to fail by the Cleveland Browns. All three quarterbacks on the depth chart, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel, were ruled out days before the game against the Carolina Panthers, and Sanders was going into it with pure backups by his side. Sanders got to work, though, putting up impressive numbers and shutting plenty of mouths in the process. The performance had some wondering if he now had a real shot to win the starting job at some point. But after some time for the performance to be analyzed, some film watchers have started to pick apart his game. Shedeur Sanders showed flaws in preseason debut, according to film analyst. A couple of days following the game, NFL journalist Deontay Lee, who works for The Ringer, dropped a surprising post on X. He had been combing over the Sanders tape, and he came away much less impressed than everyone made it out to be. Lee later expanded on his thoughts, going into detail in a full breakdown article published on Tuesday morning. Sanders certainly didn't play poorly, but the film magnified some issues that weren't apparent at first glance, at least according to Lee. It was the type of performance you'd expect from a Day 3 draft pick playing with third-stringers against a defense that included some of Carolina's starters and rotational players. Sanders flashed the accuracy he showed at Colorado, but he didn't always have an efficient plan for working through his progression, nor what to do once he escaped the pocket. But if we thought Sanders' debut would help provide some clarity to the league's weirdest quarterback competition, that hasn't been the case. It seemed like Sanders had done enough to move up the Browns' depth chart at least a little bit with his performance, but that wasn't the case. The Browns released their second depth chart on Monday, and Sanders was still fourth, even behind Gabriel. Perhaps the Browns' coaching staff saw the same things Lee did in the film. When the Cleveland Browns social media account posted a slow-motion highlight of Shedeur Sanders' first NFL touchdown pass, the internet did what it always does. It crowned him the next big thing. The clip had all the makings of a rookie fairy tale. Sanders, calm in the pocket, eyes scanning, a smooth release, the ball sailing perfectly into the hands of his receiver. Fans froze the frame, pointed to his mechanics, and proclaimed, "This kid's different." But if you strip away the music, the cinematic camera angles, and the adrenaline of a first outing, you start to see that the night wasn't the one-sided triumph many were quick to declare. The context the box score won't tell you. On paper, Sanders' numbers looked solid, good enough to set off debates on sports talk shows and light up highlight reels. But hidden behind the 68% completion rate was the reality that many of those completions came on safe, short throws against a defense running basic preseason vanilla schemes. His average depth of target was barely over 6 yards. A chunk of his yardage came from a single busted coverage that left a receiver embarrassingly wide open. It's not that Sanders didn't do his job, he did. But in the NFL, doing your job in August doesn't guarantee you can do it in November, when coordinators have actual game tape and design ways to exploit your blind spots. The timing factor. One of the under-discussed elements of Sanders' debut was the timing of when he entered the game. He wasn't facing the Baltimore Ravens' top pass rushers, or a secondary stacked with all pros. By the time he took the field, most of the opposing defense consisted of players fighting to make the roster, guys who might be delivering packages or selling insurance by October. A veteran quarterback could have turned that same situation into a statistical masterpiece. Sanders, to his credit, didn't implode. But he didn't dominate either. He operated in a safe middle lane, never pushing the ball into high-risk, high-reward territory. The pressure question. If there was one subtle red flag in Sanders' first appearance, it was how he handled real pressure. When the pocket stayed clean, he was decisive. But on the few plays when the pass rush broke through, his rhythm faltered. Twice, he dropped his eyes toward the rush and abandoned progressions early. One of those moments led to a near interception that a more seasoned defender would have hauled in. That's not unusual for a rookie. Plenty of great quarterbacks needed time to learn how to play under duress. But it's a reminder that highlight packages can't show the throws you almost make to the wrong team. The legacy shadow. It's impossible to talk about Shedeur Sanders without talking about his father. Deion Sanders isn't just an NFL legend. He's a walking brand, a hype machine, and a master of narrative. That aura followed Shedeur into Cleveland, and it's part of why his debut felt bigger than it actually was. The crowd cheered louder. The broadcasters told his backstory again. The cameras lingered on him longer between plays. Every positive snap was magnified through the lens of his famous last name. That spotlight can be both a blessing and a curse. It makes the wins feel bigger, but it also magnifies any stumbles. And as NFL history has shown, the league is merciless in stripping away storylines when the performance doesn't match the hype. The Browns' quarterback puzzle. Complicating matters is Cleveland's current quarterback situation. The Browns aren't a team in full rebuild. They have playoff aspirations now. That means Sanders isn't stepping into a low-pressure learning environment. If he starts to struggle in real games, the team won't hesitate to lean on a veteran rather than endure growing pains. And that's where the danger lies. A promising but flawed preseason debut can inflate expectations beyond what's reasonable for a rookie adjusting to NFL speed. The same fans praising him in August might be calling for his benching by mid-season if the wins don't come. Why the hype still matters? Here's the thing. Just because the debut wasn't flawless doesn't mean it didn't matter. Confidence is a fragile commodity for young quarterbacks, and Sanders walked off the field knowing he belonged. His teammates saw him lead a scoring drive. The locker room felt his composure. That does count for something. But there's a difference between promising and proven. Right now, Sanders is the former. And the NFL doesn't give you much time to become the latter. The road ahead. When the regular season arrives, Sanders will face defenses disguising blitzes, cornerbacks baiting throws, and linemen who can collapse the pocket in under 3 seconds. The margin for error will shrink to the width of a football. That's when we'll see whether the poise he showed in a safe preseason pocket translates under real fire. The Browns coaches know this. That's why you didn't hear Kevin Stefanski hand him the job outright after the debut. The front office isn't building its season around a few August drives. They've seen too many preseason stars vanish once the games count. The bottom line. Shedeur Sanders' debut was a success in that he didn't look overwhelmed. It was a success in that the Browns scored points with him on the field. It was a success in that the moment didn't swallow him.